It is my hope that this particular episode of Answering Anti-Islam will be seen by many. And I ask that both the people on Quora, my Ummah, my Muslim friends, and the Jews that I'm going to send this to, please share it as much as possible. This is incredibly important information. I'm going to speak on the Islamic legality of what happened in Israel. And I want to say that my sympathies are with the families and the victims of these horrific acts that we've seen happen in Israel just this past weekend. This particular video is going to be a little bit off the cuff because I want to get this information out as soon as possible. I may or may not even add texts. I have some references at hand here, and I hope that you, the viewer, will go and research this stuff on your own. That is my ultimate goal, is to get everyone thinking about everything. So, without further ado, I want to say Assalamu alaikum to my brothers and sisters. This is going to be a hard one. And I want to say Shalom Aleichem. To the Jews, and tell them that they're my brothers. So, Hamas is a political organization in Gaza Strip. They actually run the joint, unfortunately. And they are known for terrorist attacks against Israel. And what I'm going to speak on, again, is the legality. I'm going to speak on it in both classical fiqh law and in modern fiqh law. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I know happened. And keep in mind that I only know this because of a news cycle, right? So I may be missing things. I may even have slightly incorrect information. So again, I encourage you all to just, do your own research on what I'm talking about, including the events of that particular day. My apologies, I needed a break there for a second, but the emotion is real. Right, so Islamic law. What is Islamic law? And this is the part where the Jewish thing comes in, because Jewish law and Islamic law are virtually the same thing. We have laws about warfare. You guys have laws about warfare, and they are pretty much the same, right? So first, I want to refer the audience to the 10 rules from Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him. And it's a hadith. And it says, among other things, don't kill women and children. Don't mutilate dead bodies. Don't interfere with people who are in monastic services, etc. Just some basic ethics of Islamic jurisprudence. We happen to call it Islamic military jurisprudence. Now, let's go ahead and take the classical world. And let's look at the classical laws, which I would say ended, at least to my estimation, if we're including slavery, they ended around 1850-ish. Because I believe I was reading a fatwa recently of classical scholarship that was around that time about slavery. This plays into what's going on because of the kidnappings. And, you'll see. So slaves were taken of either, you either purchased the slave back in the day, or you took one in captive, right? You took one from war. And let's not kid ourselves. These women, young women who were kidnapped, are going to be either sold off as slaves or used as slaves, specifically sexual slaves. So let's see if what happened and what they did meets the criteria of Islamic jurisprudence in the classical sense, because I believe that's what they like to go off of. And you'll find they're very wrong. So back in the day, there were things that qualified a slave to become what we would now call a concubine, right? And those things were she had to be a person of the book. She couldn't be purchasing her freedom. She couldn't be married. There were other things too. Now, did those Muslims who did that jazz in Israel, did they, do any of that? No, they took these poor women captive and they're going to make sex slaves out of them and not follow those rules. Now, the other thing is the concubine had to agree to be a concubine. It wasn't like they were just, automatically, in big quotes, sex slaves. They really weren't. The concubine got a better deal in life. They got more food, they got better shelter, they were treated better than your common slave. Is that what Hamas is doing? No. So, beyond the slavery point, is this actual battle? Is this battle legitimate? And this is a crossover of both fiqh law from the old, both the classical and modern fiqh law. Now, in modern fiqh law, slavery don't exist. So you can't have concubines. Sorry. Right? So Orthodoxy has already decided this, and we Orthodox Muslims do not believe in slavery or concubinage. End of the story. So even if these guys, as we say in the US, often lived in the 7th century, they would still be wrong because they are making literal sex slaves instead of concubines. And those are two completely different things. On the subject of sex, they obviously raped women too while they were there. Guess what? That's a crime as well. That's a zina crime, and it is punishable by death. So, already, 0 for 2, right? So they're not following the rules. Now, let's talk about lawful warfare. Lawful warfare, you go to your enemy and you say, hey, accept Islam. And they say no. This is in the Quran, by the way. This isn't even contestable. And then you say, okay, well, you know what, pay us some taxes and, join our caliphate. As a side note, to me, I think this stuff should only happen in a caliphate. I don't think partisans should be able to do this. But yeah, you invite them to Islam, and then you invite them to pay taxes, and if you can't find any other way out, then you attack them. I do not remember Hamas trying to do such a thing, right? So they skipped a major step in the Quran, in the Holy Quran. They skipped this. Now, what is lawful combat? Lawful combat does not include suicide. And that is because suicide is forbidden in Orthodox Islam. I would like to quote a hadith on the subject. And this hadith is sahih, meaning it is graded as correct as possible, right? And it says, this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. He who commits suicide by throttling shall keep on throttling himself in the hellfire forever. Forever. And he who commits suicide by stabbing himself shall keep on stabbing himself in the hellfire. Now that is a warning to tell you that suicide is forbidden. Just in case you didn't read the Quran, you can read the hadith. And they say the same thing. All right? So, I lost count. I guess we're 0 for 4 now. More rules of warfare. We said, don't kill children, don't kill women. That's exactly what they did. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot think of anything that is more anti-Islamic than Hamas. And what they are doing is perpetuating these ideas that it's totally okay to be evil because it's for Allah. No, that's not how that works. You don't get a pass. And this is not jihad. Make no mistake about that. This is not jihad. This is murder by Orthodox standards. These people are being murdered. Muslims, I demand that you tell people this. I demand that anytime you see anything on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, on Quora, which incidentally you should check out our space, I demand that you talk about these orthodox laws and how terrorism is not Islamic, and that all terrorists will be going to the hellfire because they committed suicide. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And I'm sorry if I'm short, I'm sorry if I'm angry, but I am. Because what's happening is these people are usurping God. They are twisting the words of Allah. And that, by definition, makes them kuffar. Kuffar not only in their teachings, but kuffar in their actions against innocents, against the innocent Jews. If they wanted to, what would have been totally perfect and fine and halal was what they actually started to do, which was attack military. And, that would have been totally fine. It's not necessarily forbidden, even if they're not a de facto military force, the people attacking. If they're just partisans, that's totally fine. But where they went wrong, rape, killing innocents, killing those that aren't fighting you, is a basic tenet in Islamic jurisprudence. There are essentially rules of engagement that these people are not following. And not just that, but they're teaching others that terrorism is martyrdom. They're teaching others that it's okay to go and kill whomever you want. Did the Prophet ﷺ ever do that? No, of course not. He didn't just go around killing Jews. He didn't just go around killing all enemies of Muslims. That's not what we do. We should be held to a higher standard. And that's what Allah has us do. We are held to a higher standard. We must speak to our enemy. We must try and make peace before we have war. Was any attempt made? No. And Hamas it's just ridiculous. They are reinventing Islam for their own purposes. And I imagine that an Orthodox Jew, or some Orthodox Jews, would feel the same way about Israel and the politics of Israel. And the final thing that I am going to say, this is of course my opinion, the other stuff wasn't. The other stuff is Islamic law. But my opinion is that I hope, or rather, my opinion is that both of these factions are just that. They're factions. They do not represent Orthodox Judaism or Orthodox Islam. They are merely politics behind the facade of religion. And the sooner religious Muslims and religious Jews get together and we start talking about the wide range of commonalities that we have, the better, especially here in more neutral countries like the States and such. Every Jewish person is my cousin, and that is why my heart feels for Israel right now. And again, I ask whoever has sent this to please look into what I'm saying. Don't trust me. Read more, educate yourself about Orthodox Islam. And I say peace to all, and thank you for watching.